How does a tiny, insignificant village become the greatest empire the world has ever known? This isn't just a story of conquest. It's a story of ambition, innovation, and betrayal. It's the story of Rome. Let's travel back in time, to the very beginning. Our journey starts not in a grand city, but on the banks of the Tiber River in Italy. Here, a small cluster of 7 hills provided a perfect strategic position. It was easily defensible and had access to a crucial waterway. Legend tells us this place was founded by twin brothers, Romulus and Remus, raised by a sheep. While this tale is likely myth, the reality is just as remarkable. Early Rome was a simple agricultural society, a collection of tribes living in mud huts. So, what made this humble settlement different? What gave it the spark to one day rule the known world? It was a combination of prime location, a resilient spirit, and an uncanny ability to learn and adapt from their neighbors. Great empires often have the most unassuming origins, and Rome was no exception. This early settlement soon grew into what historians call the Roman Kingdom, lasting from around 753 to 509 BC. During this period, Rome was ruled by a series of 7 kings. These weren't necessarily hereditary monarchs, like you might imagine. Some were elected. A huge influence during this time came from their northern neighbors. You can see their touch in early Roman architecture, like the use of the arch, and even in their political customs. It was during the kingdom era that the foundations of Roman law and its formidable military were first laid. But the Romans grew wary of absolute power. The reign of the last king, a tyrant named Tarquin the Proud, ended in a dramatic overthrow. This event was a turning point. The people of Rome rejected monarchy and embraced a radical new idea, a new political vision that would change the course of history. A republic. With the king gone, Rome entered a new, dynamic era. The Roman Republic. This wasn't a democracy like we know today, but a complex system designed to prevent any one person from holding too much power. At the top were 2 consuls, elected for 1-year terms, who acted as joint heads of state and military commanders. The real power, however, resided in the Senate, an advisory body of elite aristocrats. Then there were the citizen assemblies, where the common people, the plebeians, could vote on laws and leaders. For centuries, Roman history was defined by the struggle between these two. Classista patricians and the plebeians este common. Folk fought for more rights and a greater say in their government. This internal tension, paradoxically, made Rome stronger and more adaptable. This new republic wasn't content to stay within its borders. It began to expand, and this expansion was forged in the fires of war. The most famous of these conflicts were the Punic Wars, a series of 3 brutal, protracted wars against its greatest rival, Carthage, a powerful maritime empire based in modern-day Tunisia. This was a fight for control of the Mediterranean. The Second Punic War is legendary, thanks to one of the greatest military geniuses in history, Hannibal. He famously marched his army, complete with war elephants, over the Alps and into Italy, terrorizing Rome for years. But Rome endured. They learned, they adapted, and they ultimately defeated Hannibal and razed Carthage to the ground. After the Punic Wars, no one could challenge Rome's authority. It had become the undisputed master of the Mediterranean Sea. But as the Republic grew larger and wealthier, the very structures that made it strong began to crack under the strain. Unimaginable wealth flowed into Rome, creating a vast gap between the super-rich and the impoverished mass. Generals, loyal to their legions more than to the state, began to wield immense political power, and one man, more than any other, would personify this change. His name was Gaius Julius Caesar, a brilliant general, a charismatic politician, and a masterful writer. Caesar rose through the ranks. His conquest of Gaul Moderne, France, made him a hero to the people and immensely wealthy. The Senate, fearing his popularity and ambition, ordered him to disband his army and return to Rome. Caesar faced a choice. To obey would mean political ruin. To refuse meant civil war. His decision was made at a small river marking the border of Italy. The Rubicon. By crossing it with his army, He defied the Senate and declared war on the Republic. This was the point of no return. The phrase crossing the Rubicon still means making an irreversible decision. Caesar defeated his rivals, including the great general Pompey, and returned to Rome not just as a hero, but as the most powerful man in the world. He was declared dictator for life. He reformed the calendar, initiated massive public works projects, and centralized power in his own hands. But his ambition was seen as a threat to the very soul of the Republic. On the Ides of March, 44 BC, a group of senators, fearing he would declare himself king, assassinated him on the floor of the Senate itself. They hoped to save the Republic, but instead, they plunged it into a new cycle of chaos and civil war. Caesar's death did not restore the old Republic. It created a power vacuum that led to years of brutal conflict. Out of this chaos, one man emerged victorious: Caesar's adopted son and heir, Octavian. After defeating his final rivals, Mark Antony and the Egyptian queen Cleopatra, Octavian returned to Rome as the sole ruler. But he was politically brilliant. He knew Romans hated the idea of a king. So, he carefully maintained the appearance of the Republic, while systematically gathering all real power for himself. He took the title Augustus, meaning the revered one, and became, in all but name, the first Roman emperor. This marked the official end of the Roman Republic and the birth of the Roman Empire. Under Augustus and his successors, the empire entered an unprecedented era of stability and prosperity known as the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. For roughly 200 years, the Mediterranean world was largely free from major conflict. Trade flourished, roads were built connecting the vast territories, and Roman law and culture spread. It was a golden age of engineering, literature, and architecture. The empire expanded to its greatest extent, stretching from Britain in the northwest to Mesopotamia in the east. From the Rhine and Danube rivers in the north to the Sahara Desert in the south, the small village on the Tiber had finally fulfilled its destiny, transforming into a global superpower that would leave an indelible mark on Western civilization. The rise of Rome is a timeless story of how a small city, through grit, organization, and relentless ambition, could come to rule the world. Have you ever wondered what made the Roman Empire so incredibly powerful? It wasn't just luck. A huge part of their success was their military machine, the Roman legions. These weren't just soldiers. They were highly disciplined, professional warriors who trained relentlessly. Their tactical formations, like the famous testudo or tortoise formation, made them nearly invincible on the battlefield. But their strength wasn't just in fighting. The Romans were master engineers. They built siege engines that could bring down fortress walls and constructed a vast network of roads that crisscrossed their empire. These roads weren't just for trade. They allowed legions to march at incredible speeds, responding to threats and launching conquests faster than anyone could have imagined. This rapid deployment, combined with their fearsome reputation, was a form of psychological warfare. Often, the mere news that the legions were coming was enough to make enemies surrender. Their dominance wasn't just won with swords, but with shovels, strategy, and sheer terror. Beyond the battlefield, the Romans built a civilization that became the very foundation of Western society. Think about our modern world. Our legal systems, with concepts like innocent until proven guilty, have their roots in Roman law. Their ideas about governance, republics, and senates have influenced political structures for centuries. And just look around at their architectural marvels. The Colosseum, the aqueducts that carried fresh water for miles, the grand public baths. These weren't just buildings. They were statements of power, engineering genius, and a commitment to public life. The language they spoke, Latin, became the basis for French, Spanish, Italian, and many other languages. And its influences all over English too. Their approach to urban planning, with gridded streets and public spaces, set a standard for cities for 1,000 years. Roman civilization wasn't just about conquering lands. It was about building a new world, a highly organized and sophisticated society that left a permanent mark on history. So, if Rome was so powerful, so advanced, what went wrong? Like all great empires, the seeds of its decline were sown from within. Over time, the political system became riddled with corruption. Ambitious generals and politicians constantly vied for power, leading to civil wars and instability. The emperor's throne was often won through violence rather than peaceful succession. On the economic front, things were just as dire. Constant wars were expensive, and the empire's vast bureaucracy required heavy taxation, which crippled small farmers and businesses. The gap between the ultra-rich and the poor grew wider and wider. To defend its vast borders, Rome started relying more and more on mercenaries, soldiers who fought for pay, not for loyalty. These foreign troops had no real allegiance to Rome and could easily turn against their employers. As the internal structure weakened, the pressure from the outside mounted. Barbarian tribes, like the Goths and Vandals, began pushing against the frontiers, sensing the empire's growing vulnerability. The final act in the saga of the Western Roman Empire came in the 5th century. The internal rot had weakened the empire so much that it could no longer effectively defend its borders. The once mighty legions were a shadow of their former selves, often filled with unreliable mercenaries. Wave after wave of invasions by various tribes swept across Europe. They sacked cities, including Rome itself, and carved out their own kingdoms from Roman territory. Central authority completely collapsed. Provincial governors and generals acted like independent warlords, and communication and trade routes broke down. Finally, in the year 476 AD, the last Western Roman emperor, a young boy ironically named Romulus Augustulus, was deposed by a Germanic chief. This date is traditionally seen as the end of the Western Roman Empire. The fall wasn't a single event, but a long, slow process of decay. Roman dominance in Western Europe was over, and the continent began its transition into a new, fragmented era known as the Middle Ages. But did Rome ever truly fall? The Western Roman Empire as a political entity vanished. Yes, but its legacy is eternal. It's woven into the fabric of our modern world, our legal and political systems. From the Senate in the United States to the principles of civil law in Europe, are direct descendants of Roman ideas. Countless empires throughout history, from the Carolingians to the British, looked to Rome as the ultimate blueprint for power and governance. They copied its titles, its architecture, and its imperial ambitions. The idea of Rome became a symbol of ultimate authority and civilization. Even today, the language, laws, engineering, and philosophy of the Romans continue to influence us in countless ways. So while the city of Rome may have fallen and its empire crumbled, its spirit lives on. It is a testament to the fact that ideas can be more powerful and enduring than even the mightiest of empires. Rome's story isn't just ancient history, it's a part of our own story, shaping the world we live in today. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more.